Okay, we're set. Welcome. This is our webinar for presenters for the Nebraska After School Conference, Get Connected. And we are going to give you an update on what's happening, what to expect when you get to the conference, and a few tips on making an engaging session. If you have questions, please use the chat box to share that. If you've got anything you're hoping I'll cover, you can put it in the chat box now, or if something comes up as we're going, and then I've got some time set aside at the end to go back and look at those questions. I'm Dr. Sandra Weaver-Frericks from Nebraska 4-H, and I am part of the planning committee for the conference, and for the contact this year for presenters. So if you have questions about presenting at the conference, you can send those to me as well. I wanted to start with an update on the flooding. In case you had heard that there was some severe flooding at the conference center. The first picture on the left there is what the conference center looked like on July 9th. And the next picture on the right is what the room we're going to be using looked like on August 9th. They did an amazing job getting everything up and open much faster than I would have expected. I have heard the Yona's hospitality is just exactly what people expect from them. The food is good. And everything is wonderful, except there are no carpets in the conference center. So that may affect some of the sound in our breakout rooms. But that will be the only concern I think we will have with the flooding. I'm very impressed with how they've managed it, and I'm sure they are looking forward to having us come so that we can bring the business to the community. They've invested a lot in getting the center open and running again as quickly as possible. Our agenda for today is just 4 items that we want to cover. My goal is that by the end of the webinar, you have the information that you need to put together a great workshop, and you know what to expect when you get to Kearney. The conference is at the Yona's Conference Center in Kearney on October 11th. Is that right? Yes. Okay. So just to make sure that I have that detail correct. Let's start with what participants expect from your session. So which one of these sessions would you rather attend? When people come to the conference, they tell us that what they're hoping to learn is things that will help them do their job better. And we expect that, but one of the things that we don't always know is what exactly their job is that we can help support them on. So from looking at last year's survey, about half of the people who attended the conference said they were staff in after-school programs. And so that's about half your audience is really looking for ideas and strategies that they can use directly when they're doing programming with youth. But we also need to remember that about a quarter of the people who attend our conference are administrators, or program leaders, or coordinators who administer after-school programs, and they have a wide range of responsibilities. So they're looking for workshops that can help them when they're working with youth, but also when they're hiring and supervising staff, planning budgets, evaluating their program, and building partnerships. So please keep that in mind. And then there's about 20% of the people who attend the conference who are community partners, teachers, and others who work with after-school programs, but aren't staff or coordinators or administrators of those programs. So that is kind of a snapshot of who our audience is. And The things that we know about our audience is that they love working with young people, that they come to the conference to learn something new. They do not want to be lectured at, but they do want a session that is engaging and gives them a chance to wrestle with some new ideas. And here are 4 things that you can do to put together that sort of session. The first one is get to know your audience. Find out in the first couple of minutes of your session who's in the room so that you can really tailor the presentation you're doing to meet that audience. So start out with a little bit of questions or a quick survey of the room to find out who's there. Second thing is own the room. You're in charge for this hour and take control of that. Start the session on time. Use the whole room. Don't just stand in one place, but really take control of that learning space. Third is to reflect and apply. Ask questions throughout your presentation. Adult learners learn best when they have about 8 to 10 minute segments of getting new information and then a chance to apply that. So try to break things up, try to change what you're doing about every 8 to 10 minutes during your session. Don't just talk at them for a long period of time without getting their input as well. And finally, help learners make meaning from the information that you present. Active learning, solving problems, applying what they've learned to new situations, or sharing with others are all meaning-making strategies that can really help engage adult learners. So take time to give them a chance to apply the learning, to think about how it fits in their program, and to talk with others, to have that meaning-making conversation with others. And they're going to go away with a better experience and recall what you shared with them more fully. Now let's take a look at the conference agenda so you know what to expect when you get to the conference. The URL is in the corner here. I encourage you to visit the website so that you get the most up-to-date information, because there may still be a few tweaks to the schedule or to the details of the session, so keep up to date there. I also really encourage you to plan on staying for the whole day. Don't come just for the session you're presenting if you can. I realize sometimes you're not able to commit that whole day, but one of the things we're adding this year is an on-conference cafe session at the end of the day. And this is designed to facilitate networking and give everyone an opportunity to create their own learning experience at the conference. We're going to do that by generating a list of topics at the opening session that are things people would like to talk about or learn about. And then we will use what is generated at that conference to set up the cafe topics for the afternoon. And I hope that all of our presenters will be able to be contributors to that process, to be part of those conversations. So that's one of the reasons I want to encourage you to stay for the whole day, because building a stronger relationship with you is one of the things that all the conference participants are hoping to get from the day. So if you leave early, they don't have the opportunity to do that. We will have everyone safely on the road home by 4 o'clock, so you can make that fit into your schedule. Also, this year, as a conference presenter, you get a discounted registration. It's $30 for presenters. That's half off the regular price. And you can have up to 2 presenters for your session. Use that discounted rate. So you and a co-presenter. I realize you may not have registered for the conference previously, But in order to make sure we have the right amount of food and the space that we need for the conference, we really need to have all the presenters register. And right now, when I checked, we only have about a quarter of the presenters registered for the conference. So if you haven't taken time to register, go to the website and there's an online registration form. If you are paying for it from a university cost object or a cost object at your school, or using a credit card, it's really easy because they're going to generate an invoice that you'll get in the email to pay for that. So you don't have to pay when you fill out the form, but we really need you to fill out the form so we can generate that invoice and get it to you. And I do encourage you to pay that invoice as soon as you receive it. If the invoice isn't paid, I think it's 10 days after the conference, 30 days after the conference, there's a processing fee. So you'll register online, receive an invoice, pay it right away, and then you're done. Are there any questions about the schedule? And while I'm pausing for questions, Marcia, I do see your question in the chat box, and we'll get back to that at the end. So thank you for getting it in there right away. I have not notified you yet whether you have workshop session 1, 2, or 3. And that's because I'm still making a little bit of adjustment to the schedule. I'm hoping to get that out by the end of the week. Each session, whichever one you're at, is 30 minutes, or I'm sorry, 60 minutes long. So you have an hour, and then there is a little bit of time in between for moving between sessions. So you should have that full hour of your session. I almost forgot, and thank you, Jan, for the reminder. If you are coming to the conference for just the morning or just the afternoon, but you're not going to be there for lunch, you can email Sherry Landis, and we'll have her email up here in just a moment. It's sherry.landis@nebraska.gov, and she will waive your registration fee if you're not going to be there for lunch, because that's our biggest expense for the day. So if you, again, I want you to stay for the whole day, but if you're not able to, we can work with you on that and try to make it as easy as possible for you to attend. All right. Now, when you come to the conference, what can you expect in your room? If you're not presenting as part of the arts immersion experience, that one room is going to be set up differently, but everyone else, your room is going to be set up with round tables, and there should be 5 to 6 people at a table. We encourage you to include some discussions or activities where people interact with the others at their table for that active learning experience. The rooms vary a little bit in size, but you can expect your room is going to hold between 48 and 60 people. So I'm thinking the average is going to be 50. My recommendation for handouts is to make 20 to 50 copies, depending on how many people you think will choose your session. But plan for a room of about 50 people. In each room, there will be a projector and a screen and a laptop. So you can just bring your presentation on a USB drive. If you want to connect your own computer to that projector, you can do that. Just be sure you bring your power cord and the appropriate dongles that you might need to make that presentation or that connection. The conference center has free wireless internet. Doesn't mean you're going to get a good connection in each room, but you can expect that there is wireless in the conference center. The other thing you need to know is that when people arrive, they're going to get a bag at the registration desk that includes their printed copy of the conference program. and a small journal that they can use, and a pen for taking notes. So we encourage you, if you have something you want people to just do a little bit of reflecting on during your session, have them use that journal for their reflection. So you don't need to bring just blank paper for anything, activities you're doing. Everybody will have a notebook with them and a pen that they received at registration. Other than your own presentation, highlights for this year's conference are we have 2 workshops from You for Youth that they've been invited to come and present workshops. We think that will be a draw. There will be a recognition of program coordinators who have served 5 years or more as part of the conference. The presentation of the Bob Whitehouse Award for After-School Program Policy, and a new contest this year that is designed for students in after-school programs called Explore My Community. And if you haven't heard of the Explore My Community contest, go to the conference website and see what that is all about. It's an opportunity for students to make a brochure or a presentation that highlights their community and what makes their community unique. It's a really good project. We estimate it'll take a couple of weeks for students to complete in their after-school program, so there's still time now to get the youth that you work with involved in putting that together and being part of that competition. And then the On-Conference Cafe is something new we're trying this year to see if that enhances the experience and gives better opportunities for networking and building connections across the state. We think there's going to be a little bit of something for everyone at the conference. And if you have any questions about what to expect at the conference itself, Kim Larson is the best contact for that, and her email is kim.larson@nebraska.gov. All right, let's move on to preparing for your presentation. All the communication about the conference is going to go first to the first presenter listed. So if you get information that you think your co-presenters need, please take time to pass it on to them. And I have provided a list of presenters and co-presenters to Sherry so she knows who is qualified for the discounted registration rate for that 50% off on your registration. So if your co-presenter has changed, and this gets to Marcia's question, you can let me know so that I get that updated before I send the final information to put in the printed program. If you don't know if you're going to have a co-presenter, it's okay to leave that blank as well. Or if you think they're going to be there and you're not sure, we can still include them in the program and give them credit for the effort they put to help you put together that presentation. So it's not essential that we know who is going to be presenting each session, but we do want to know if you're not able to be there so that we can put another workshop into that slot. Okay, so on August 15th, you received an email from me that included the title, description, and objectives for your workshop. And if there was any feedback from the proposal review committee, it was included in that as well. So one of the first things that I want to have you do is review that information and make any changes to that you want in that printed program and get it to me hopefully by the end of next week so that I can get the program to Sherry and she can get it set up so we get it printed in plenty of time. So any changes to the description, to the presenters, to the objectives, that's what's going in the printed program. I'd like to have that by the end of next week. We know from our surveying of program participants that the description in the program is the primary way they decide which sessions to attend. So it's really important to do your best to describe what's going to happen in your session so the right audience gets to your session. Next part is to draft your presentation. You've got 60 minutes. Think about how you're going to use that time for interacting, reflecting, and talking, and decide how much time you have for each of those things. I recommend that you start that right now, that you get your first draft of what you're going to present together. Don't wait until the first week of October to do that, but get it drafted out now, and then we'll talk about what you can do next to help prepare. You're going to make some decisions about, are you going to include slides, activities, handouts? Those are the pieces that are going to take more time to prepare. So that's why you want to get that first draft done so you kind of know how you're outlining the time, and you can decide whether you need to have a PowerPoint or not, how much time for activities you have, and what handouts you're going to need in order to do those activities. All right, when you're preparing your slides, here are my tips for this. First of all, if you don't need slides, don't bother. Not every session needs to have a PowerPoint or a slideshow, but if you think it will be helpful for your session, for me, I like to use it because it helps me keep moving and not get distracted with my content. So, 4 tips on your slides. Whoops, I went the wrong way. Use less words. Most people stop listening and start reading when words appear on your slide. So if you have a lot of words on your slide, it makes it harder for people to listen and really hear what you're saying. Don't put a lot of words on the slide. If you need a script, you can create a script. I have one here in front of me, but it's not on the slides. I'm not just going to read the slides to you. Second, use more images. Your audience can look at an image and pay attention to what you're saying and what they're seeing at the same time. It's just a little bit about how our brains work. So an image will reinforce what you're saying rather than distract from it. Use images that are going to highlight the key ideas or the concepts you want to get across on that slide. Next, use less slides. A good slideshow can help keep you on track, but if you've got 40 slides that you want to cover in an hour, you're going to find that you run out of time. So less slides, enough information on each slide to help you keep on track, but not a lot of slides. It's going to give you the best presentation. And use more stories. Stories are very memorable. Stories are what helps people really connect with you and makes them remember the message you're giving. So use stories whenever you can, and your audience will remember that and build a stronger connection. All right. Now, you may or may not decide to do slides, and that's okay, but we hope that you will have some way of incorporating active learning into your workshop. And it may be that just a good outline and a great activity is what you need to fill your hour. So the first topic, slides, optional, whether you need it or not. Active learning, not really optional. Find a way to engage your learners. And think about what you have to present. Think about how your audience is going to use what you have to present, and give them an opportunity to get up and move around, or to draw, or to put something together, to be active in some way that will help them apply what you're learning to their work. Active learning doesn't just mean a hands-on activity. It can mean giving people a big sheet of poster paper and asking them to represent an idea graphically. That's an active learning strategy that's going to help them process what you're telling them and think about how to apply it. You're going to be limited on time for your active learning, so keep that in mind as you're deciding what you want to include as well. And make sure that reflecting and applying is part of what you have planned for your workshop. Don't assume that everyone's going to be able to figure out how it applies. Give them a chance to do that, to ask questions, and ideally to talk to each other about how they're going to apply it. Now you're ready to prepare handouts. And there's two types of handouts that you may want for your session. The first, pictured on the left here, are the handouts that you're going to use in your session. These are things people are going to read or write on during your presentation. And you'll need to make sure you have copies of those for all the participants in your workshop. You need to make and bring your own copies. Again, 20 to 50. 50 is going to be tops. We're actually going to limit each workshop at 60, but some of the rooms aren't even big enough to hold 60. So plan on the 50 handouts should be enough for your session, but remember they have that journal, so they don't, if you just need blank paper for them to reflect on, you don't have to make handouts. The second type of handouts are things that you may want to have to help people apply what they've learned once they get back to their program. And those may not be ones that you need to make copies of. We will post handouts on the conference website. So if you just have something you want people to have access to after your presentation, you can post that on the website but not have to make copies. Saves yourself a little bit of money and saves the paper. All of your handouts, whether there's something you're making a copy of or just something you want to share with people for after the workshop, need to go to Sherry Landis, and here's her email, sherry.landis@nebraska.gov. Send those to Sherry no later than September 27th, so she has time to get them all posted before the conference. And then during your presentation, if you want to show people where they can find those, you can do that. But my hope is that if you get all of this done, deciding what your presentation content is going to be, drafting your slides if you need them, planning how you're going to engage learners actively and what handouts you need, if you can get that done by the end of September, then you have the first 2 weeks of October to practice your session, to see how much time you're taking, to know if you need to cut back a little bit if it's going to go long. So that's our tips for preparing for your workshop. Now, what can you expect when you're coming to the conference? Here is my to-do list to help you get ready to come to the conference. First thing you need to do is get registered. The URL is there at the bottom of the page. Get yourself registered for the conference so we know you're going to be there. We can have food ready for you, and if you have any special needs on the diet, we can accommodate those if you register ahead of time. If you are going to need to stay in Kearney overnight, then get your hotel reservations done soon. There is a block reserved at the Fairfield Inn and Suites. It's only $110, well, it's actually $109.95 per night. All that information is again at the conference website. The block is only held till September 30th, so get registered soon if you need a hotel room. Of course, there are other hotels beside the Fairfield Inn and Suites, so you have lots of options about where to stay. Next thing you need to do is get those handouts to Sherry. So make sure, oh, I skipped one. First, review the information I sent, that email from August 15th. Make sure that we've got the final description, objectives, and presenters by the end of next week so we can get that in the printed program. That's why we need that lead time. Then you get your handouts to Sherry so she can get them posted online. When you come to the conference, gather all the supplies and handouts you're going to need for your workshop. Bring business cards. We're going to be encouraging a lot of networking, so bring some cards that you can pass out to people, or bring some bring a pad of Post-it notes where you can write your name and phone number if you don't have business cards. If you have a slideshow or presentation for your session, bring that on a USB drive. If you want to use your own laptop, be sure you've got the power cord and dongle, and plan to participate in the whole conference. It'll help make your workshop more engaging. It'll help people get to know you and build more connections. All right, now we are going to get to your questions. So we had a question about setting up that morning. The workshop rooms will be used 3 times. If you've got just a small bit of supplies that you'd like to have a place to store them, you can set them in the corner of the room. The center will open at 7 a.m. We are actually starting at 7:45, so you've got some time there that you can drop supplies off. And I will get your schedule to you by next week, so you'll know which time slot you're in, and you can better decide when it's going to work for you to set up your space. Now, the question, are we able to set up the night before? We don't know for sure. We will be checking to find out from the conference center if what they have planned for the night before. So we will let you know if you can set up or drop things off the night before. And just going through the list to make sure it's clear, your presentation time is 60 minutes. We do have a little bit of time for moving in between sessions, so you should be able to plan that whole 60 minutes. If you start on time, you can go to the end of the hour, and then people have 15 minutes before they need to be at their next session. And that also gives us a little bit of time if presenters need to switch things out. And then if you're changing your co-presenter, to get it in the program, we'll need to know that by the end of next week. But if you make switches at the last minute, we're okay with that. If you are not if you're not able to present, you're probably not here. But I do want to make sure if you aren't able to be there that you let me know. Now, are there any other questions? If you want to unmute yourself and ask a question, you can do that now as well. All right, I think it is time for me to end the recording.